This story is titled, Mom's New Boyfriend Moved His Entire Family into Our House Without Warning, Then Tried to Sell My Late Father's Car. What his daughter revealed made Mom pack their bags. I never thought I'd have to fight to keep my father's memory alive in our own home. But here I am, standing in our driveway at midnight, watching Mom help her boyfriend's family unload their belongings into our garage, the same garage where Dad's restored 1967 Mustang sits covered, untouched since the day he passed away 8 months ago. The car he promised would be mine on my 18th birthday. The same car that, just yesterday, I overheard Marcus, Mom's boyfriend, calling a waste of valuable space. I'm Sarah, 17F, and until 3 months ago, it was just Mom, 42F, and me trying to piece our lives back together after Dad's sudden heart attack. We were doing okay, not great, but okay. Mom started dating Marcus, 45M, about 2 months ago, and I tried to be supportive. Really, I did. But I never expected to wake up one morning to find his entire family moving into our house without any warning. Let me back up a bit. Before all this chaos started, our life had a different rhythm. Dad was a high school shop teacher who spent his weekends restoring classic cars. That Mustang was his pride and joy, a project we worked on together every Saturday morning since I was 12. Mom always joked that motor oil ran through our veins instead of blood. After Dad died, that car became more than just a vehicle. It was the last piece of him we had left. Our shared history preserved in gleaming chrome and carefully restored leather seats. Mom met Marcus at her grief counseling group. He seemed nice enough at first, quiet, respectful, and he gave Mom space when she needed it. But something changed last week. He started coming over more frequently, bringing his daughter Emma, 16F, and his son Tyler, 14M, along. Then yesterday, without any discussion, their moving truck appeared in our driveway. But here's where things get truly bizarre. Marcus's ex-wife Diane, 43F, is here too. They claim they're temporarily living together for the kids' sake, while searching for separate places after losing their house to foreclosure. Mom seems completely fine with this arrangement, as if having your boyfriend's entire family, including his ex-wife, move into your home is the most natural thing in the world. I'm writing this from my bedroom, listening to the sounds of strangers settling into my father's house. The house he spent 15 years paying off so Mom and I would always have a home. The same house where Marcus just announced he's reorganizing the garage tomorrow to make room for their belongings. Something isn't adding up about this whole situation. The way Marcus keeps eyeing Dad's Mustang, the whispered conversations between him and Diane when they think no one's watching, the strange way Emma keeps trying to get me alone to talk. I can't shake the feeling that there's more to this story than a simple family falling on hard times. How did we go from grieving daughter and widow to unwitting hosts of a full family in just 3 months? And why do I get the distinct impression that Marcus has plans for Dad's car that go beyond just making space in the garage? I need answers, and I have a feeling Emma might be the key to understanding what's really going on here. Tomorrow, I'm going to find out exactly what she's been trying to tell me, no matter what it takes. The next morning felt surreal. I woke up to the sound of unfamiliar footsteps and muffled conversations echoing through our once quiet home. The scent of someone else's coffee, not Mom's usual hazelnut blend, drifted up from the kitchen. It's strange how the smallest changes can make your own home feel foreign. I spent most of the morning in my room, watching through my window as Marcus and Tyler carried boxes from the moving truck. They worked with an urgency that seemed odd for people who were supposedly staying temporarily. What caught my attention was how Marcus kept disappearing into our garage, spending more time in there than actually moving their belongings. Each time he emerged, he'd have these intense discussions with Diane, both of them gesturing toward the garage while keeping their voices low. Around noon, I noticed Emma sitting alone on our back porch. She kept glancing over her shoulder, almost nervously, before typing something on her phone. That's when I received an unexpected text from her. Need to talk. Not here. Meet at the park across the street in 10. I hesitated. Emma and I hadn't exactly bonded during their previous visits. She'd always seemed withdrawn, almost afraid to make eye contact. But now, something in her demeanor had shifted. She looked determined, worried. It was hard to tell, but my gut told me this might be my chance to understand what was really happening. Making my way downstairs, I passed Mom in the living room. She was helping Diane arrange family photos on our coffee table, their family photos, right next to Dad's picture. The sight made my stomach turn. Mom caught my eye and gave me that forced smile she'd been wearing lately, the one that didn't quite reach her eyes. When was the last time I'd seen her genuine smile? Before Marcus, certainly. Just as I reached for the front door, Marcus's voice boomed from the garage. He was on the phone, his tone unusually animated. Yes, I understand it's a classic. No, the paperwork won't be a problem. The current owner is absolutely willing to sell. My blood ran cold. The current owner? That Mustang belonged to me. Dad had put it in his will, clear as day. I slipped out before Marcus could spot me, my mind racing. The park was empty except for Emma, who sat on a bench partially hidden by an old oak tree. As I approached, she quickly wiped her eyes. Had she been crying? The girl who'd been mostly silent during their visit suddenly looked like she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. Before you say anything, Emma began, her voice barely above a whisper, you need to know that this isn't the first time they've done this. She pulled out her phone, showing me a series of photos that made my heart stop. Multiple houses, different families, various classic cars. The common thread? Marcus and Diane, standing together in each photo, wearing the same practice smiles they'd been showing us. What Emma revealed next about their pattern, about why they specifically targeted my mom, about their plans for Dad's Mustang, it all made horrifying sense. But nothing prepared me for the final piece of information she shared, the real reason she decided to break her silence after watching this happen 3 times before. The true nature of Marcus and Diane's relationship wasn't what they'd led us to believe. And Mom's grief counseling group? That wasn't where they'd really met her. Everything, from their first interaction with Mom to this sudden move, had been carefully orchestrated. But why us? Why our family? Emma's answer would change everything. Emma's revelation hit me like a physical blow. Marcus and Diane weren't actually divorced. They had never even been legally married. They were partners in every sense of the word, moving from town to town, targeting grieving families with valuable assets. Their children, Emma and Tyler, weren't their biological kids but rather Diane's sister's children, whom they'd gained custody of after their mother's incarceration. The entire family dynamic they presented was an elaborate facade. My hands trembled as Emma showed me more evidence on her phone. They'd found Mom through an online grief support forum, not a counseling group. Marcus had specifically sought her out after learning about Dad's car collection through local classic car enthusiast groups. The Mustang wasn't their only target. They were after our house too. Emma explained how they typically convinced their marks to refinance their homes to help with temporary family expenses, only to disappear once they'd secured access to the equity. The sick feeling in my stomach intensified as Emma revealed their usual timeline: 3 to 4 months of building trust, followed by a sudden crisis requiring immediate financial assistance. We were nearing that window. Yesterday's unexpected move wasn't about a foreclosure. It was about accelerating their plan. Marcus had already lined up a buyer for Dad's Mustang, planning to forge Mom's signature on the title transfer. I thought about Mom's recent behavior, her distracted demeanor, the way she'd been spending hours with Marcus reviewing paperwork I wasn't allowed to see, her uncharacteristic defensiveness whenever I questioned their rushed relationship. The pieces were falling into perfect, horrible alignment. But what truly shattered my heart was learning about their previous victims. Emma pulled up a news article about a widow in Oregon who had lost everything: her late husband's restored Chevelle, her family home, her sense of security. The woman's teenage daughter had written a devastating blog post about watching her mother fall apart after discovering the betrayal. Emma had kept in touch with her secretly, carrying the guilt of each family they destroyed. Why was Emma breaking their pattern now? The answer knocked the wind out of me. She'd found a letter in Marcus's phone, a photo of Mom's handwritten note to her financial advisor, initiating the process to refinance our house. The same house where Dad had proudly made the final mortgage payment just months before his death. The same house he'd promised would always be our safe haven. But Emma's next words changed everything. You're not the first family they've targeted, but you might be the last. Because this time, they made a crucial mistake. She pulled out a crumpled envelope from her jacket pocket, a letter that had arrived at their previous address and been forwarded to them. It was from a law firm in Seattle, responding to a complaint about Marcus and Diane from another victim. They were being investigated, but they didn't know it yet. As I sat there, processing everything, a text from Mom lit up my phone. Marcus is taking the Mustang to get appraised tomorrow morning. He knows a buyer who might be interested. Time to let go of the past, honey. Let go of the past? This wasn't about letting go. This was about protecting Dad's legacy and Mom's future. I looked at Emma, seeing the same determination in her eyes that I felt building in my chest. We had less than 24 hours to expose the truth before the Mustang disappeared forever. But with evidence mounting and their previous victims coming forward, we finally had a chance to end their scheme once and for all. What Mom didn't know, what Marcus and Diane couldn't have anticipated, was that Dad had left one final safeguard, a detail in his will that I'd kept to myself, waiting for the right moment. As Emma and I formulated our plan, I realized that sometimes protecting your family means fighting for them, even when they don't know they need saving. That evening, our house felt like a powder keg waiting to explode. Every casual conversation at dinner carried double meanings. Every shared glance between Marcus and Diane seemed to confirm their unspoken plans. Mom sat at our dining table, Dad's handmade dining table, laughing at Marcus's jokes while his hand rested possessively on her shoulder. The weight of what I knew pressed against my chest like a stone. After dinner, I retreated to Dad's study, a room that had remained largely untouched since his passing. Running my fingers along his leather-bound planner, I found what I was looking for. His lawyer's business card, still tucked in the back pocket. Dad had always told me that preparation was the key to success, whether you're rebuilding an engine or protecting your family's future. The carefully worded clause in his will about the Mustang wasn't just about leaving me a car. It was about ensuring Mom couldn't be pressured into selling it before I turned 18. From the hallway, I overheard Marcus and Diane in the kitchen, their voices carrying through the heating vent. Marcus was reassuring Diane that tomorrow's sale would go smoothly. He'd already created a bill of sale with Mom's forged signature. My hand shook as I typed out an email to Dad's lawyer, attaching the photos Emma had provided of their previous victims. A soft knock at the study door made me jump. It was Tyler, Marcus's supposed son, looking younger and more vulnerable than his 14 years. His voice trembled as he revealed that he'd been keeping his own records, dates, locations, amounts taken from previous families. He'd written everything down in a journal, hidden inside his gaming console. The guilt had been eating at him too. Through the study window, I watched Marcus backing Dad's Mustang out of the garage. He was moving it tonight, not tomorrow as planned. My heart raced. We were running out of time. But as I observed him struggling with the car's peculiar starting sequence, a memory surfaced, Dad's voice explaining the hidden kill switch he'd installed, a precaution from his years of working on valuable classics. Marcus might have the keys, but he didn't have all of Dad's secrets. Emma's text alert lit up my phone. The lawyer had responded. The next few hours would determine everything. The previous victims were willing to come forward, but we needed to prevent Marcus and Diane from disappearing with the Mustang and any equity they could squeeze from Mom's refinancing application. What Marcus and Diane didn't realize was that Mom's signature on those refinancing documents wasn't just about the house. Dad had set up a trust before he died, with specific conditions about property transfers and asset sales. Any major financial decisions required approval from both Mom and the trust administrator, a detail Marcus had missed in his rush to close the deal. As night fell, I watched Mom sitting alone on the back porch, clutching her coffee mug the way she used to when she and Dad would share their evening conversations. The porch light illuminated the tears on her cheeks. For the first time, I saw past my anger at her quick acceptance of Marcus to recognize her profound loneliness. She wasn't just a victim of their scheme. She was a woman desperate to feel whole again after losing her partner of 20 years. Tomorrow morning, Marcus planned to meet his buyer at the bank to complete the sale of Dad's Mustang. But tonight, as the house settled into uneasy silence, 3 separate emails were making their way to crucial recipients, one to the bank's fraud department, one to Dad's lawyer, and one to the detective investigating Marcus and Diane's previous cons. The confrontation was inevitable now, but it wouldn't happen the way Marcus and Diane expected. Dad had taught me that sometimes the best way to win a fight is to let your opponent think they've already won. As I finally drifted off to sleep, I could almost hear Dad's voice reminding me that the best mechanics know it's not just about the tools you have. It's about knowing exactly when to use them. Dawn broke with an unsettling quietness, the kind that reminds you of moments before earthquakes or storms. I stood at my bedroom window, watching the morning light catch the Mustang's chrome trim. The car sat in our driveway now, ready for Marcus's appointment with the buyer. Every gleaming surface held a memory, Dad teaching me to polish the headlights just right, his patient hands guiding mine over the delicate chrome work, the pride in his voice when I correctly identified engine parts. How could I explain to Mom that selling this car meant selling pieces of those memories too? Emma and Tyler appeared in the kitchen early, their faces carrying the weight of countless mornings like this one, watching other families' lives unravel. But today was different. You could feel it in the air, see it in the way they moved with purpose rather than resignation. Tyler had slipped his journal into my hands before breakfast, his whispered words striking deep. Make sure they can't do this to anyone else's mom. The morning unfolded like a choreographed dance, each person playing their part without realizing the full performance. Marcus made his phone calls in the garage, his voice carrying that artificial warmth he'd perfected over years of deception. Diane kept Mom distracted with wedding magazine discussions, their fictional future together providing the perfect cover for the morning's real agenda. The refinancing papers sat on the kitchen counter, waiting for Mom's final signature. What they didn't know was that Mom's coffee that morning came with an unexpected side of truth. As she scrolled through her emails, she would find messages from 3 different families, all sharing stories painfully similar to ours. The lawyer's response about the trust requirements was there too, along with documentation of the fraudulent signature Marcus had already attempted to use at the bank. I watched Mom's face as she read, her hands trembling slightly around her coffee mug, Dad's favorite mug, the one with motor oil stains that never quite washed out. The color drained from her cheeks as reality sank in, replaced by something I hadn't seen since Dad died, that fierce protective spark that used to appear whenever anyone tried to take advantage of her family. Marcus burst into the kitchen, car keys jingling triumphantly in his hand. The buyer was waiting at the bank, he announced. Everything was ready to help us move forward. His practiced smile faltered when he saw Mom's expression, then completely disappeared when she wordlessly turned her laptop toward him, displaying the email thread from his previous victims. The next few moments existed in a strange state of suspended animation. Diane appeared in the doorway, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Emma and Tyler stood close together near the back door, their usual masks of compliance replaced by quiet determination. And there, in the middle of it all, was Mom, her grief and loneliness transforming into a cold, clear anger that seemed to fill the entire room. But it was the sound of multiple cars pulling into our driveway that finally shattered the tension. Through the kitchen window, I could see Dad's lawyer emerging from his car, followed by a detective and 2 officers. The weight of Marcus and Diane's past was finally catching up to them, their carefully constructed house of cards collapsing in our kitchen on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Mom's voice, when she finally spoke, carried echoes of Dad's strength. The Mustang stays. The house stays. And you need to leave. Now. Her hand found mine across the counter, our fingers interlocking just like they had at Dad's funeral. But this time, instead of holding each other up in grief, we were standing together in strength. The next few hours would change everything, not just for our family, but for every family Marcus and Diane had targeted. As the officers began their work, I realized that sometimes protecting your father's legacy means more than just keeping his car safe. It means honoring the values he lived by, honesty, integrity, and the fierce protection of those you love. The afternoon unfolded like a fever breaking, each moment bringing more clarity to the confused haze of the past few months. As the officers led Marcus and Diane to separate patrol cars, I watched Mom sink into Dad's old armchair, her fingers tracing the worn leather armrest where his hands had rested countless times. The weight of everything she'd almost lost seemed to press her deeper into its embrace. Emma and Tyler sat huddled on our couch, their faces a complex mixture of relief and uncertainty. They weren't just accomplices turning witnesses anymore. They were kids who'd been forced to grow up too fast, carrying the burden of their guardian's sins. Mom's social worker background emerged through her grief and anger as she made quiet phone calls about emergency foster care, ensuring they wouldn't get lost in the system that had failed them before. The house slowly emptied of officers and investigators, each departure taking with it another layer of the fiction Marcus and Diane had built around us. In the garage, Dad's Mustang sat untouched, its presence both a testament to what we'd almost lost and a symbol of what we'd managed to protect. The familiar scent of leather and motor oil wrapped around me like Dad's old workshop jacket, grounding me in memories that no one could take away. As evening approached, Mom and I sat on the back porch, sharing the comfortable silence we'd lost since Marcus entered our lives. She held Dad's coffee mug, now filled with the hazelnut blend that had been absent during Marcus's reign over our kitchen. The subtle return to our old habits felt like reclaiming pieces of ourselves. I kept trying to fill the empty spaces, Mom finally whispered, her voice catching on the words. Every time Marcus moved another photo, changed another routine, pushed another boundary, I told myself it was just part of moving forward. I couldn't see that moving forward doesn't mean erasing the past. The wind carried the scent of Dad's rose bushes, the ones he'd planted for their 20th anniversary, still blooming despite months of neglect. Mom's eyes filled with tears as she noticed them too. Your father built this life for us brick by brick, memory by memory. He knew exactly who might try to take advantage after he was gone. That's why he put you on the trust, isn't it? He knew you'd fight for us both. The revelation hung between us. Dad's final act of protection hadn't just been about the car or the house. It had been about teaching me to recognize the value of what he'd left behind. Not just the tangible assets that Marcus and Diane had targeted, but the intangible legacy of standing up for what's right, of protecting those you love, of knowing the difference between moving forward and being pushed aside. Later that night, as I helped Mom sort through the paperwork Marcus had left behind, we discovered more evidence of their previous schemes. Each document revealed another family's tragedy, another carefully orchestrated betrayal. But mixed in with Marcus's papers, we found something unexpected. Dad's old journal, the one Mom thought she'd lost during our first chaotic months of grief. Its pages held sketches of the Mustang's restoration, notes about my progress learning mechanics, and letters he'd written to us both about his hopes for our future. In his final entry, dated just weeks before his heart attack, he'd written, Sarah has her mother's heart and my stubbornness. Together, those might just be enough to weather any storm that comes their way. Reading those words, I finally understood. Protecting his legacy wasn't just about keeping his possessions safe. It was about preserving the foundations he'd built: trust, integrity, and the unshakable bond between a parent and child. Emma and Tyler would be leaving tomorrow for their aunt's house in Colorado, a fresh start with family who'd been searching for them since their mother's troubles began. But before they left, Emma handed me a small package wrapped in newspaper. Inside was a keychain she'd noticed in Marcus's collection, one I recognized instantly as Dad's missing workshop key ring, the one that had disappeared shortly after his death. Another piece of him returning home, another small victory in the battle to preserve his memory. 3 weeks have passed since that pivotal morning in our kitchen. The physical traces of Marcus and Diane's presence have been gradually erased from our home, but the impact of their deception lingers in subtle ways. Mom jumps slightly whenever the doorbell rings. I find myself double-checking the garage door each night, making sure Dad's Mustang is safely tucked away. Some scars, I'm learning, take longer to fade than others. The investigation revealed the full scope of Marcus and Diane's operation: 7 families across 4 states, each carefully selected during their most vulnerable moments. Mom spent an entire evening on the phone with their last victim, the widow from Oregon, their shared experience creating an unexpected bond of understanding and resilience. Together, they're helping the detective build a case that will ensure Marcus and Diane won't have the opportunity to target another grieving family. Emma and Tyler have settled into their new life in Colorado. Their aunt sends weekly updates, small victories like Tyler joining the school's auto shop class, Emma finally feeling safe enough to decorate her own bedroom. Last week, Emma texted me a photo of herself standing proudly next to a classic Chevelle at a local car show. Her message read, "Some things are worth protecting, right?" I couldn't help but smile, remembering Dad's words about how cars can bridge generations, heal wounds, tell stories. The Mustang sits in our garage, no longer just a car but a testament to everything we almost lost and everything we managed to save. Mom and I spent last Saturday cleaning it together, our first real attempt at continuing Dad's maintenance routine. We're both hopeless with engines, but there was something profoundly healing about sharing that space, passing tools back and forth, learning together. As we worked, Mom shared stories about Dad that I'd never heard before: their first date in his beat-up Volkswagen, the way he proposed in the parking lot of a classic car show, the night he spent teaching her to drive stick shift in an empty parking lot. Yesterday, I found Mom in Dad's study, carefully organizing his old receipts and restoration notes into a leather-bound album. "For your 18th birthday," she explained, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Along with the car. Your father wanted you to have the whole story, not just the finished product, but every step of the journey." The album represented more than just a collection of papers. It was a roadmap of love, patience, and dedication. The true inheritance Dad had left behind. The trust paperwork has been updated, strengthening the protections Dad put in place. Mom started attending a different grief support group, one that meets in person rather than online. Slowly, we're learning to navigate our loss without trying to fill the empty spaces with artificial replacements. Some evenings, we sit in comfortable silence on the back porch, watching Dad's roses sway in the breeze, understanding that moving forward doesn't mean leaving him behind. Last night, I dreamed of Dad working in the garage, his hands steady on the Mustang's engine, his voice clear as he explained each step. In the dream, he turned to me with that familiar proud smile and said, "Sometimes the best protection isn't a lock or a kill switch, it's knowing exactly what you're fighting to preserve." I woke up understanding that what we'd really protected wasn't just a car or a house. We preserved the truth of who we are, a family built on trust, strengthened by loss, and bound together by memories that no scheme could ever steal. The Mustang in our garage isn't just Dad's legacy, it's a reminder that some bonds are strong enough to withstand any storm, and some stories deserve to be protected at all costs. Tomorrow, I turn 18. Mom's planning a small celebration, just us, Dad's favorite chocolate cake, and the keys to a car that represents so much more than metal and chrome. As I fall asleep tonight, I can almost hear Dad's voice carried on the evening breeze. "You did good, kiddo. You did real good."